It is November 17th. It is 7:03 p.m. This is the Northern Kane Educational Corp. regular board meeting, which I am calling to order.
Chair Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro?
Present.
Director Miller?
Present.
Director Fessler?
Present.
Director Burke?
Present.
Director Walsh?
Present.
Mr. Razor?
Present.
Ms. Keating?
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize our guests, Ms. Amy Girardi and Ms. Katie Wachowski. Thank you. At this time, we are at the D300 report with Ms. Shelley Nacky.
Thank you. Would like to share that October was Principal Appreciation Month. So we do want to thank the principals here at the charter school. And then also November being Veterans Day, we want to thank all of the veterans who have served our country. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we are at item number 3, order of business. May I have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Director Burke?
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro?
Yes.
Director Fessler?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Walsh?
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco?
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the remote participation as presented?
So moved. Second.
Director Burke?
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro?
Yes.
Director Fessler?
Yes.
Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Walsh?
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're now moving to open session. Item number 5 are comments from the audience. Any comments from the audience?
No, none at this time.
Thank you. Item number 6 is our chair report. One moment. I'm going to get up for a moment. It is Board Appreciation Day, and I did want to take the time to thank each and every one of our board members for your commitment to Northern Kane Educational Corp, as well as Cambridge Lakes Charter School, and of course, the Cambridge Lakes Learning Center. So with that, each of our certificates represents the recognition for the service, leadership, and dedication for being a member of the NKEC Board of Directors. Each of you provide guidance and support thoughtfully, and you help shape the direction and success for our students and the CLLC community. So I thank each one of you and would like to present your certificates. The first certificate is presented to Dr. Daniel Wash. So you will get your certificate in the mail. The next certificate is presented to Dr. Art Fessler. My ongoing thanks. Thank you. We also have a certificate to Ms. Kelly Burke, who is also remote today. The next certificate is presented to Ms. Ann B. Miller. Thank you, Ann. As always. Our next certificate is presented to Ms. Bria Corsaro, who also serves as our vice chair. Thank you.
Chair Maniscalco,
dedicates countless hours to our organization. Being the chair comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility, time, effort, and our school is so much better for having you as our leader.
Thank you once again to each of our dedicated board members. Up next is item number 7, which is our CEO report. Mr. Razor.
So board, in front of you to finalize our board appreciation evening is a box with a gift from Cambridge Lakes Learning Center. So if you take a time now to go ahead and open our appreciation gift for you. Go see what I like to pass. Just like I can this morning. I'm pretty sure most of you can use it.
Tutorial on the computer. Oh, I like this.
Marky, how'd you know?
Yes, thank you.
So nice.
Great.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Excellent.
We were
Thank you
just
so much.
This is a nice calm one. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much for your service. I know this is a small gift, but we truly appreciate everything that you do as volunteers for our board. So thank you very much. So moving on into our CEO report. We'll start off like we always do with our enrollment. Our enrollment has held steady. And so we're at 696. We've had some matriculation in and out. Some parents that chose options outside of the district, some inside of the district to better suit their needs. And then we had students that were transferred in from inside the district and outside of the district. So currently the total campus is at 805 preschool through 12th grade. So we're actually way above our budgeted amount of students. We budgeted at 680, and so we're at 696. So we're in very good shape at this time. Are there any questions regarding the enrollment report? So right now I'd like to invite Mrs. Girardi up to give us a update on our academic progress for the fall and our IAR reports.
Good evening, board. I am here to share with you the academic status for the Cambridge Lakes Learning Center for the fall of 2025. This is based on our fall iReady benchmarks and our 2025 spring IAR and ISA scores.
Down.
So first we have our 2025 iReady reading benchmark for the fall. On the bottom, you'll see our 2024 scores, and on the top are the 2025 scores. The scores look very similar from fall of this year to fall of last year. Just one important thing to note is that this year we had 156 new students taking iReady. So while the scores look very similar, and we can't necessarily say that there's any growth from fall to fall, I can note that there are 156 new individuals represented in our scores. So I'm excited to see where these scores land when we do our winter benchmark. This slide represents our IAR reading data. Now, one important thing to note is that metrics have shifted at the state level. So the 2025 scores that you see on the top, there are slightly different color designations. You'll see that the red has gone away. That designation no longer exists, so that redistributes some of the scores between the other 4 colors. So it looks like things have stayed similar in the green zones and shifted around in the yellow and orange, the below levels. But with the new metrics, it's hard to compare previous years. Just wanted to put this up here for your reference. Now, based on these new metrics, this is how our school performed versus the state and the district. As you can see on here, we have some work to do to elevate some of the learning of our students to above and meeting standards. On the next slide here, I want to share with you some of the in-depth things that we are working on in the area of reading. Up to this point, all students in kindergarten through second grade have received an individualized one-on-one screener with our instructional coach to really pinpoint their exact phonics skills need. And teachers have been trained in phonics instruction. So every student will be in a personalized reading small group based on their phonics skill where they were individually screened, and will be working on their individual trajectory. There are some students in third and fourth grade who were identified as needing phonics instruction as well. Those students received a screener and have been placed in a phonics instruction group as well. All of the students who mastered phonics skills are going to be in a reading comprehension group based on their iReady designation. So every single student in our lower school is going to be met one-on-one or in a small group with a teacher based on their exact need, so that we can really personalize the learning for our students and drive our reading scores forward. In addition to that, we will continue working on our iReady personalized learning path. We will enhance our MTSS process and make sure that we're really using data to drive our instruction and drive the small groups that the students are participating in. One additional item that isn't represented on this slide, but is such a new addition to our repertoire of data is a platform from NKEC. And based on this platform, we are able to pinpoint students who are underperforming or who are below benchmark, and really enhance our instruction for them. So I'm excited to use that platform to even further personalize some of the small groups and some of the interventions to make sure that we're really servicing the student the best way that we possibly can. Similar to the iReady reading data, this is our fall benchmark. Again, looks very similar to our fall from last year, but with the same representation of 156 new students to our data pool. Similar to reading, here is our IAR math results. Again, with the new metrics in place, you will see that the res designation no longer exists, and so students have been redistributed a little bit. Here is our performance in math, according to the district and to the state level. We're at a very similar place to the district and the state performance in regards to math. This year, the upper school shifted to Ready Classroom Mathematics. They were previously using a different curriculum, so now we have coherent between our students kindergarten through 8th grade. We have also been working with teachers to assess and identify students in small groups for math instruction as well. Right now, our priority is reading instruction, but there are a lot of teachers who have voluntarily shifted their instruction in math as well, seeing the power of meeting with students in small groups and individualizing their instruction. So there are a lot of teachers who have jumped in ahead of the curve to introduce math small groups to their instruction as well. We will continue our iReady personalized pathway. We have introduced a new tier 2 resource for our interventions that focuses on numeracy skills and really helps build that. Now that we have a comprehensive numeracy plan at the state level, that helps give us some guidance for the intervention plan. And again, using the MTSS process to make sure we're identifying and watching students who are in need of an intervention. Last, we have our ISA science data results. And again, it's similar to math and reading with the new metrics. The scores look very different than they have in years past. The images on the bottom represent our scores for the last 3 years with the previous metrics that were in place, and now with the new metrics, this is where our scores have landed. And here's our performance according to the district and the state. Very similar to the district and the state. In the area of science, in lower school this year, we have shifted science instruction to one of the specials, so we can guarantee that students are getting science with frequency. And we have a dedicated science classroom for our lower school to make sure that they're receiving science from kindergarten through 4th grade before they enter into the upper school and have science every day. So that should be a strong boost for our 5th graders as they have more consistent science instruction in lower school. This year concludes our contract with our current science curriculum company. So we'll be evaluating the student needs and our science instruction needs with the teachers and ensuring that the science curriculum we have going forward meets the needs of our students. So I have to do.
So I think a couple of the key takeaways, we held steady as far as our reading data goes. So our reading data got a pretty significant bump last year at this time. And our math data was far behind. And this year, what you see is that the reading data held held constant and our math data started to increase. But with the new cut scores, it's really hard to say what was actually working for math and what wasn't working for math. So it's going to take at least probably about another 2 years for us to truly evaluate the impact of those cut scores on or our instructional changes and shifts on the actual scores for the kids because of the new cut scores. Now, to complicate this, next year there will be a new designation report. So we are all, both upper and lower schools and the high school are all commendable. But next year they're going to either rename them, recut them, whatever it may be with the designations. And that's in process now. ISB is going through and doing listening tours. But I think a couple critical steps that need to still be addressed at the state level. One is that what you saw with our science in the past, we were at 60% or above that were meeting and exceeding. Now they made the science cut scores more difficult, more rigorous, right? And so now you saw our group of students start to perform less in science as in past years, which mirrors what happened with the state. And then in math, they make it so that it is a tiered cut score versus if you look at the reading cut score, it's around the 40th to 45th percentile across, right around there. Well, in math, you start off in that 50th percentile in 3rd grade. And by the time you're in 8th grade, you have to reach the 69th percentile to be considered proficient. So there is not a standardized cut score there. And so for that to be the case, it makes it extremely difficult as students matriculate through elementary schools prior to meeting high school. This is going to cause a problem across the state for school districts that are not like D300, that are elementary and high school districts. The high school districts will look at the elementary scores and make an assumption that they're going to have to remediate all of these students. But when they come into high school and they take the ACT, the cut score is an 18. So it's an 18 all the way across. Well, 69% proficiency on IAR would garner a much higher score on the ACT than an 18. So, I will continue to work with our advocacy groups to address this at the state level. Our partner ECRA has pointed this out to the state multiple times, and I think other school leaders are pointing it out that this is not it's not an effective way for us to be able to measure our scores, even though they went up in proficiency. It's still, you're going to see a reverse curve in that. So we're on the right path. We're 2 years into this process of our new charter agreement. We're in the 2nd year so that we can move forward and be an exemplary school in the next 3 years. So I think there's a lot of good work here, and we just have to continue down the path to make sure that our students are getting that personalized learning that Mrs. Girardi talked about. Are there questions regarding the academic performance?
One follow-up question. The winter benchmark, so there was testing at the beginning of the year, there'll be testing in the winter, and then one in the spring?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And the big trajectory to look at, the largest indicator is a spring to spring. So when we start to look at that for full growth of a child, that is when we have all of that data, and that will show us whether or not you start to see the true growth. Because if you take spring to fall, you have that a typical small amount of summer slides, sometimes even larger depending on the school. If you take just fall to winter, it's too short of a time span to really look at as far as making programmatic decisions. So you like to look at that spring to spring for the overall growth. Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Girardi. Our financial report. So as you can see from the graph here that we have, we are still currently under our projected budget of where we should be this year. So our revenue is still not at the point of we're exceeding our expenses, but that's because our revenue for September does not reflect the additional tuition income that will be coming in. And so when that revenue comes in, when that which will be in this next one in October, you'll start to see it even out as we have done in the past. There are some things that are definitely favorable for our budget right now. And so when you look at our key drivers from September, you can see that it was schools out generated and exceeded our budget by $25,000. It was a 32% gain because of our strong summer fun attendance and consistent AM and PM care registrations. And then our interest income came in about $75,000 higher than we budgeted. And we also have converted our in and out our in and out checking accounts. So meaning that the funds that we have in those standard bank accounts rather than in our trust. So those are two separate financial institutions that we can use to move our money around. It allowed us to open up a money market account. Prior to that, we weren't earning any interest on any of the money that was sitting in there. So if we took it out of the trust to be able to pay the bills, every quarter, we weren't earning any funds. So Diane worked very hard with the bank and said, how can we earn money? And so right now you can see that by them moving it in daily and out daily so that we can access those funds, but putting it in the money market account overnight, we were able to capture $3,260 that we didn't have in the past. So if you look at that in the aggregate, this is going to exponentially create more funds for us, for our kids and for our teachers. And then our energy rebate came in at $36,000 from ComEd from the farm there. In the academy, one area was we're about 5 students short of what we budgeted. So we fell short by about $17,000 right there. We're still in it in very good shape though, overall, when we look at our total finances. So I think that as we move forward and the new PCTC rate comes out at the end of November, early December here from District 300, when their audit is approved, I think we'll be in very, very good shape. Are there any questions over the financial report? Okay, strategic plan update. So the next steps of our strategic plan. Dr. Lynn Gibson and Dr. Kim Sudbeck will be out from HYA will be out in December to give us the report of what they found through all of the surveys and focus groups and individual meetings and interviews that they've had. I'm happy to say that our total respondents for all of our focus groups and surveys was 498. So we had a good amount of parents, teachers, administrators, support staff, students, and our board members that participated in all of the feedback that we got from the survey. As part of our annual postings, we have to notify the board that we filed our posting with Emma. For the first quarter, financial postings was within 45 days of the quarter end, and our annual financial posting. So typically that is done next week, and Diane was able to make sure that she met the threshold, and we got it in early. So we do know that they accepted it and that they have posted it.
Is there we don't know yet when the meeting is going to be planned for January, I think it is.
For the strategic planning retreat?
No, I was talking about the bond meeting.
No, I do not know when the annual, well, no, we do. It is, I believe we asked for that Friday before Dr. King. So I'll have to look at the exact date. 1 second. Should be January 16th. I will confirm that and get that to you.
Okay. Item number 8 are our consent items. 8.1 bill payments. 8.2 would be the minutes of October 20th, 2025 for the regular board meeting as well as the closed session meeting minutes. 8.3 is our technology disposal report. And I need a motion to approve those consent items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Director Burke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro,
Yes.
Director Fessler,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Walsh,
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 9 is our new business. Mr. Razor, wellness policy.
Yes, due to the fact that we went in-house with our wellness or with our food service, we need to update our wellness policy. And there was a couple things that were added in 2024 under press that when in our pre-audit, they cited us to say, make sure that you put this into your policy prior to the actual audit so that we can make sure that we're in compliance. And so what you can see is that there are just a few things that need to be added in. One of them has nothing to do with food service whatsoever, but they don't really have a place to put this in policy, so they put it in the wellness policy. I'll explain that. But if you look at the goals for other school-based activities, this is where it talks about healthy eating, wellness activities, school-based activities, support student health wellness, including coordinating events and clubs. So that's one thing. The EFD that's added in there, that is for early graduation. Why is it titled EFD? I do not understand that, and nor could I find what the F stood for. So I'm sorry for that, but it is for an early graduation. It only applies through 9/12. For any student that would graduate early, they would have to comply with District 300's early graduation and meet the requirements that District 300 and ISB has put out. So that is now added to the school wellness policy updated language as well. So we have reviewed this once in our advisory policy committee. We will review it one more time and bring it to the board for adoption in December so that we are in compliance. Are there any questions over the wellness policy?
Item number 9.2 is our food service equipment and capital project. Mr. Razor.
Yes. So if you remember that I talked about a little bit about this in the past, we needed to make sure that we needed to run our food service to see what we actually need inside the kitchen. And so we've had our USDA deliveries. They're pretty hefty. We're filling up the freezers pretty quickly. So we do need to now look at where we're going to store this food when it comes in. And when we look at overall what we were spending in the past to subsidize our food service program, we were spending about $200,000 annually to help subsidize that program. Now we are starting to break even and almost make a little fraction of a profit to be able to invest in things like the food service equipment. I can tell you as of Friday, Ms. Coulter fed 311 students, which is pretty phenomenal when we look at where we were a year ago at this time. And so that's a testament to her and her staff. They're doing a great job of being creative and getting everything for our students. So with that said, we are looking at avenues of building a freezer on the outside cutting a door in and building a freezer right there. That's would be a walk-in freezer to be able to store that food. It appears that it will be not to exceed $75,000. We're working with Allied Services as our GC to make sure everything works out the way it's supposed to. We've gotten the 3 bids for the freezers, and now our next steps are to solidify what that looks like and the scope of work to bring it back to the board in December. Okay, any questions over the food service? Okay. All right, this next one are school fee collection. So in August, the General Assembly passed a bill, or the Senate bill, I should say, 1740, which expanded or created more limitations and expanded, I guess, more opportunities in some ways for schools to not be able to collect fees. So a couple years back, they took it so that we could not withhold a transcript of a student based on a fee for them to apply to college. And now they've expanded it even further and said that you cannot withhold a child from extracurricular activities. So the only mechanism that school districts are left with, sadly, is going to collections. Now, that is a point after you've gone through all the factors, working with a family on a payment plan, making sure you invoice them multiple times, calling, working as hard as you can with them. And then there does come a point where we have to say, what is what's our next mechanism? And I bring this to the board because our school fee, this is a policy, right? And so we have to include in our policy some type of language of what we will do as far as collecting school fees. It is a common practice to have this in a school board policy for fee collection, but it is the mechanism that you want as the very, very last resort. At this time, I can tell you we have 25% of our fees are unpaid. I think when we look at overall what this is doing to our state, that you can't go back to ISB and say, hey, we just lost $1 million because you put this in here and people walked away, or 250,000. That's revenue that's gone and away from the children for us to be able to provide different resources and opportunities for them. So I'd like to have a discussion with the board about what direction you think we should go with crafting this policy.
It's interesting because I recall many debates when I was superintendent of many residents believing that their taxpayer should cover all fees and there should be no fees regardless. But, we talked a bit about this. Dan, Mark, and I discussed it with the finance committee meeting and believe that we need to do something. So we talked about some different strategies, whether it's, engaging in some of the practices that Mark said that are already in place, like Mark mentioned, they send letters but there are also collection options as well as things move on. But in terms of policy, again, I think we have to approach it delicately. I mean, I know that we're losing dollars in fees. I think it's common in many schools across the state. Many schools, because of financial issues, can't collect any fees just because they're low income and things like that. So, I acknowledge, but again, I think it's a very sensitive issue and matter.
I think a critical piece for information too is if a family qualifies for free and reduced lunch, if they're on free lunch, they don't pay any fees. If they are on a reduced lunch, they pay a fraction of the fees, right? So there are mechanisms already in place to ensure that if a child, we cannot send somebody to collections for their food service debt either. These are just school and activity related fees. So that is the only thing that we can use the mechanism of a collection agency for. And it's not impacting the lowest our most at-risk families is what I would say.
And Mark also was very clear that the business department exhausts many options before really pressuring families who are not paying. They contact them regularly, try to set up payment plans. So for those folks who are able to pay who are not paying, it's again, I think we're being very tactful and patient in trying to collect fees.
I think it is, as you mentioned, I'm agreeing. It is a very sensitive topic. And if we put those families that lack the financial ability to pay, and there's some that may not qualify for free and reduced, or it might be just a temporary type of a situation that they're going through. And I don't mean this to sound insensitive, because I'm not trying to go there, but it's also a fairness thing, because if you have 25% where we're not doing our fees, you have 75% that are paying their fees, that are making sure that they make it within their budgets to make those payments, or to work out a payment plan. And so if there's parents that are out there that are struggling and yet making payments, and then you have those that are not willing to work with us, it's a fairness thing as well. And I say that keeping in mind and stressing again that it's not dealing with our families that are having financial difficulty, whether it's a temporary type of a situation or an overall income situation, because we said we go through several different steps and procedures before we get to the collection part. What I'm wondering is, before we get to that part or within that, and I understand having it in our policy, so it gives us the ability to do that. And I don't have an answer to my question. If there is some procedure or something that we can do prior to that collection, when it goes to collection, does that mean it's reported to the credit bureau?
Yeah.
And so many families are not going to want to have that reported to credit bureaus, especially if they're trying to refinance a mortgage or something. So, and I don't see, and I haven't looked at, nor have I asked to see what our letters say when they go out. I don't want threatening demand letters, because they shouldn't be a form letter. They shouldn't be a demand letter, because each family's situation is different. So it should be tailored to that family. But as it gets through all of those processes and we're down to the end, having something in that letter that says, this is our next step. Especially if we're willing to work with them.
Yeah, because once it gets turned over to collection, those letters are not kind. I mean, I've seen examples of those, and it's kind of out of our hands, and that's unfortunately the services we're paying for. But Mark, if we're thinking about putting this into policy, it would be nice to see whether we have comparison groups in terms of other charter schools or even some of the public school policies, just that we could read, have some examples to consider. That would probably make it easier in coming up with something. Plus, just it's also nice to be able to kind of fall in line with what other school districts are doing and enduring as well.
I'd also like to see, so if it goes to collection, we know that we give parameters to the collection agency. Okay, instead of getting 100%, you can go to X, and then they get a percentage off of that. So we really end up with a minimal amount. Do we offer that minimal amount to the families to pay before we say it's going to collection? Then if it goes to collection, we go for the full amount. But if we're thinking, well, we're only going to end up with 50% of that, and on a payment plan, can we do that without it going to, and then, is there a step in there? And again, I apologize because I haven't looked at all of our different steps or read the different letters.
No, so I think that the next step is if we're agreeable to even have the conversation about a collect going in this way, right? Moving forward with this language, is then the policy committee takes this as a task, right? And so you and I and Dan will sit down, we'll take all of the information in, we'll get a policy crafted, we'll run it through our attorneys and make sure and then bring it here for a first reading. And then with that first reading, we'll have the comparables with that from the other districts, and then we can modify it as we see fit. And then if we want to even go a step further, I think that there's some things that we can put in admin procedures as well. And we can say, okay, based on this policy, here's the procedural steps that need to take place. And so we can codify it in policy and then codify it in admin procedures as well. So it has some of those safeguards in place.
Mark, I don't, I don't need to see any, I mean, there's already a process in place for developing policy. I don't need to see any examples. Just that first draft that comes out of the policy committee would be acceptable. Does press have any policy on this or? Okay.
Yeah. So right now we have the press policy, but it doesn't have that language in there. So I'll go back to Heather and make sure that ours aligns with the presses currently having.
I think this is such a sensitive subject, especially if we have families who are struggling and money can be very sensitive. And so in this process, it's not necessarily the policy, but the process piece of it is just making sure that it's handled. And I'm certain it is with the most care possible, because for students and for families, this can be a very vulnerable subject. And the other question, the question that I have is what's the breakdown in things that are passed due? Is it registration fees? Is it activities and athletics? Is it field trips? Are there places at the school where we're asking for parents to spend where they're not able to, and what is available or what's possible to offset those costs? So for example, if there's a trend in field trips, what can be done to ensure that we don't go past due and those students can still participate just like others? Or if it's activities and athletics, is there more fundraising? Are there more opportunities that can be done to make sure that the students are able to participate, the school is supporting, but also we're holding families accountable for also paying for their athlete or their student?
You know, and after the discussions that we were having in the committee, one of the things that I thought about more reflectively afterward was once you create policy, then you start to say, okay, well, now there's the exception. It pops up shortly after the policy is put in force. Is there a procedural route that we can just revise, review, extend, modify? Because I agree with what everybody's saying too, and it's a culture climate thing that can start to factor into this as well, because we want to have that positive, warm culture climate being supportive, but also we do need well, quite frankly, the funds are a significant part of the budget. So it's a quandary, but I do wonder, you know, if there was procedures that were in place, and I know there are some, but is that something that can be reviewed before issuing a policy?
Yeah, I think that, you know, both of you bring up, both Dan and Bria, you bring up very good points. That going through that, you know, our admin procedures and then also doing the breakdown of the fees and see what is owed. Is it registration versus field trips versus athletics, and how we can go about offsetting that with fundraisers. At the same time, building in the policy language there. So when we meet as a policy committee, I'll have that information for us, but I will make sure that the breakdown of the owed fees, that we get that to the board prior to Thanksgiving. Okay.
Are there families that are yearly not paying or behind?
I believe so, Diane, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
Okay.
We've written off a substantial amount each year. I can tell you one family was at about 7,000 and another was at about 5,000.
So as a family, if I got a bill and it's 7,000 because it's been cumulative, I have more than one child and there's all these different, now I'm hit with a $7,000 bill, I'm gonna, even though I know that I'm responsible for it, that's a lot of money to come up with at one time. So to your point and everyone else's point about procedures to how we deal with this, and, you know, separating out, maybe we don't go to collection until it's, you know, 3 years down the road and not just 1 year.
And that's why I think all of those are good conversations as we work through this policy and then the procedures that follow it. So that it gives us clear guidelines of where we should go, and how we do it in a way um, that is honoring our families and not placing the majority of the families are paying, right? And so we have to acknowledge that. I think that when you get to the idea of fairness, like you brought up, and I think that that's an important thing that we need to address as well.
Yeah, I think we need to work with families that are having difficulty in the ability to pay.
Correct.
Families that are taking a political stand and saying, I'm not paying because I pay taxes. I'm less concerned about trying to let that go. But
Yeah.
if we look at procedures to see what happens.
It's kind of like in FAFSA, when you sign your kid up for college, you make just enough not to get anything, but not enough to send them, right? So,
Right.
I think that there is a threshold there that you may not qualify for free and reduced lunch, but it may be a difference of $100.
Yeah, and
And so
so
you really need to, you have to have those conversations, and that's where
there can be a medical
we can make a
situation that, a health situation that
Correct.
comes up, whether
Car
it's health insurance, car accident, loss of job. These are things that can be in the moment. And just because someone has a high dollar amount for an income doesn't mean that they have a cash flow to pay their debt. And so I don't want to send somebody to collections because that's not going to get us anything either.
Yeah, and so I think there, there can be some language or in the procedure where we can put in some type of hardship type language, right? And then that, part of it will be, yes, you have to, provide us with some evidence through the conversation, but the conversation is the part where the dignity comes in.
And they have to be assured that there's confidentiality.
Mhm.
I mean, no one really wants their story to be told unless they're the one telling it. And so if they're having a hardship or they're having issues at home or extended family, they want to know that if they tell the school, it stays confidential. It doesn't become the neighborhood topic.
I agree. Okay. So I think our next steps are, I'll get all of this together. We'll get you the breakdown of the fees, and then we will schedule a meeting for the policy committee to start to review this and craft some language, and I will work with Heather to get that done. Thank you very much for your feedback. Appreciate it. It helps us move forward.
Okay, we are at item number 10, which is old business, 10.1 parent organization policy.
So we have our final draft of our parent organization policy to move forward. And so everything that we went through in the first reading has been kept in. And as you can see here, this sets it forth so that we can say, okay, we're ready for our parent organizations, specifically right now, our Coyote Parent Council, to start to be able to draft their bylaws or their constitution, whatever that may be, so that they fall in line, have guidance and fall under our parameters. So that will help them really craft everything that they need to. One of the things that as they came on to this year was trying to find out how are we going to operate, and this will give them those operational guidelines as we build those out with them. Any questions over the parent organization policy? So my recommendation is that we have a motion to approve the parent organization policy 890 as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Director Burke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro,
Abstain.
Director Fessler,
Yes.
Director Miller,
yes.
Director Walsh,
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next up is our gift to the corporation policy. So this goes along with our parent organization policy so that they can raise funds and be able to use them to help our students. And so, as you can see here, everything that was in our first reading is in our second reading. And my recommendation is that we have a motion to approve the gift to the corporation policy 880 as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Director Burke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro,
Yes.
Director Fessler,
Yes.
Director Miller,
yes.
Director Walsh,
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco,
Yes.
motion carries.
We are now at the school calendar. And so we were able to survey our teachers and at the request of Director Miller and see where they came in. And what we found was that about 80% of our teachers said that they would rather have an early release the week of Thanksgiving. And the idea behind that is that it's help us for PLPs. And so we will use that for goal setting and preparing the students for their personalized learning plan meetings with their parents, those during that week. And so that will give us the 178 days. As you can see here, we spell out every single day, all of the quarter ends and semester ends, the holidays that are included in there. The start date of September 1st, the last day of school of June 11th. And then the parent guardian conferences and PD of November 24th, which is our PLP days, our teacher institute, the Kane County Day, which we're projecting should be Friday, February 26th, as it has been in the previous years. And then there will still be the 4 early release days that we will have for professional learning. We have not decided what those days, when they will actually happen. We have to see what the District 300 calendar is when it comes out for that and for spring break to see where those will fall. But I want to see what we can do as far as our early release also. If I've been having conversations with Prairie Crossing and Elgin Math and Sciences, our other kind of sister charter schools that we have, and seeing if there's something that collaboratively we can do with them. So I want to see how we can use those 4 days throughout the year. So my recommendation to the board is for a motion to approve the calendar for the 2026-27 school year
So moved.
as presented.
Second,
Director Burke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro,
Yes.
Director Fessler,
Yes.
Director Miller,
yes.
Director Walsh,
Yes.
Chair Maniscalco,
Yes.
motion carries.
Sorry. Lastly, transportation. So last month you approved me to be able to start a feasibility study. I'm happy to say that 81.5% of those families that were at the time that I looked at the survey, it was 178 families. I believe we're over 200 families now that have responded, and they are definitely interested. And so when you look at those families that responded that live in the Cambridge neighborhood, 90.6% of them responded that they would be willing to pay for bus service if that was an option. So the next steps is to start to look at what we can do as far as commitment letters. So the idea would be is if in working with Illinois Central, and they have given us a contract offer that is locked in the price that they've given to Elgin Math and Science. And it's a 2-year rate lock. Looking at the other opportunities out there, they did not come close to that same lock. When you look at First Student or Barrington and what we've been paying for those. So it is about approximately $94,000 to $100,000 per bus. If we were able to, and they have a fleet, they have buses ready for us, so we would start off with one bus and a driver, and it would be housed here. But if we were ready to do this, we could pilot it this spring semester, which really winter. We could start late January, early February, and see if we can get commitments from families that live outside of the 1.5 mile radius. To then they can start with one bus to go around and see if we can what bus service would truly look like for us for that semester. We have the money in the budget to be able to do this. If it's beyond 1.5 miles, we are going, that is reimbursable miles that we can then submit. And so it is something that I think would be advantageous. It's also something that if we have this started right at the time that we're starting registration for next year, that allows our families who had, the obstacle has been transportation, to opt into coming to Cambridge Lakes. It will only be for the K-8 seated school. We won't have that for the academy at this time. We would have to figure out those logistics later. But right now, just for the K-8 seated is what we would be looking at.
And
So,
that would
go ahead.
be currently, if we do that in the spring, it would be for our current students.
Correct.
For new registration, because we pull from more than that area, it would be for anyone. Is it over 1.5 miles? What about those that are less than 1.5 miles that are in a, I'll call it a danger zone or a safety zone?
So if it's across 72 of Busy
Right.
Street, then yes,
So it's
so
included in
they
that.
would be included in that as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we would, they would, those would be reimbursable.
And if it's more than one bus, we would be able to get, because I'm just thinking that no, positive kind of a side, I can see that our enrollment could increase substantially if we offer busing.
I would think, you know, when I do the comparables, when I look at Elgin with their
Mhm.
and the other local smaller districts, I think we could get up to 5 buses. I
Okay.
think if we're really looking at that, the amount of time we would be able to give back to families is invaluable. And let's say we have to figure out the rate, but if it was anywhere between $350 to $450 for a family that lives inside the 1.5 mile radius, that gives back time in this neighborhood as well.
It does, but we also have to take in consideration the time on the bus.
Mhm.
Because, you know, driving directly from A to B is X amount of time, but if you're going from A all the way around before you get to the next point, you've got kids now that are in buses. And then we're gonna be having the conversation about, you know, half hour in the bus, 45 minutes is an hour. How long is too long?
So the idea would be is no more than 45 minutes is the way that we would, that Illinois Central will draw up the bus routes. So it would be
Okay.
no more than a 45-minute bus ride.
45 minutes for a 6-year-old is different than 45 minutes for a 12-year-old.
Correct.
And for that bus driver too, depending on, you know, can go both ways, right?
But they are, you know, they have the bus allocations, they have the new, a new fleet that came in, and they would be able to deploy those.
So would they be housed here?
Yeah.
So then if we have however many buses and it's going to be one of those very cold days, there would be the ability to warm those buses
Yeah,
here
little
before they
warming
go out.
lights on top of the engine blocks
Okay.
or a trickle charge. In the event that it would get to where we get to Siberia, remember a couple of years back for negative 45 degrees, they would take the buses back to Batavia and put them in the bus depot
Okay.
and keep them there and then bring them back early in the morning. You know, another thing that we were talking about with them is that they would bring potentially they would roll in the morning like 2 extra buses just for the fact that maybe they don't start. But
Okay, because that brings in the whole thing about maintenance on the buses or a broken down bus and how long students, I mean, all that stuff that comes along with transportation. It sounds really good. We're going to provide transportation.
believe me, I
You're
coming
right.
here and not having buses has been great. After 23 years of busing, but I do think that it is something that we can explore. Go ahead.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll address some of the drop-off issues that we have.
Oh.
So my only concern is the budget piece. I mean, we talked a significant amount about people not paying fees. So if folks aren't paying their bus fees, have you taken that into consideration to be certain that we can afford to absorb that transportation fee in our budget?
So right now, it does not say that. So if you didn't pay your transportation fee, there is nothing that says that we can't exclude you from the bus service. So if you don't pay your fee up front, you can be excluded from the bus service still.
Yeah, that just gets hard to do. I mean, this, once they're on the bus, once they start the
If they
route.
show up to the stop, the bus driver's not in charge of that. Right.
But if the bus doesn't show up to the stop and the
But
parent
if
calls
it's
and
communal
says,
stops, that's the.
Yeah.
Yes, community
that-
stops, yeah.
That runs, I mean, we had that more often. than-
Just want to be certain
Yeah.
that, this doesn't budget wise overwhelm us or turn into a bigger expense than we anticipate.
So I think the next steps would be, is for what I'd like to be able to do is go and see, get commitments from those that live outside of the 1.5 mile radius. And get commitments from them that they would be interested in starting in late January, early February, see what that need is, and then come back to the board in December for an update or a final approval to move forward with one bus for the spring.
Is it possible to bring the numbers to the finance committee meeting so Dan and I can take a close look at them?
There be any collaboration with District 300 for the existing bus routes that they have? Because in Cambridge Lakes, there's bus stops for elementary, middle, and high school that run in the afternoon and mornings.
We can. They're two separate companies, so I would have to see where I can ask the District 300 Transportation Director, Ms. Mason, for where her bus stops are and give them the Illinois Central. And then they can see what those are. Yeah, because we don't want second graders getting on the wrong bus.
I can imagine that the desired spaces to use within Cambridge Lakes would be the ones that are already utilized.
That is all I have.
Okay. That brings us to number 11, which is our board discussion.
we just want to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Yeah.
Looking forward.
It's opening night at the Eagles Nest, and my daughter's got 3 threes in the first half already.
Hey,
So anxious to catch the second half.
all right, well,
Very good. With that, we are at our adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
second.
Director Burke,
Yes.
Vice Chair Casaro,
Yes.
Director Fessler,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Walsh,
Yes.
Chairman Escalco.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll vote.